Have you recently just joined a gym and you get a little bit of anxiety, not sure what to do as well? Don't worry, it's normal to be nervous when you first join the gym. I've got 5 tips for you to help you feel more comfortable, to help you achieve your goal, and also work on the reason why you joined that gym. But before we get started, subscribe to our channel. We are going to release a video every single Wednesday following about exercise, programs, nutrition, and also injury rehabilitation that will help you get far in your exercise journey. Now, I've used these 5 tips and tricks for myself for the last 15 years that I've been training, and also for the last 10 years as being a trainer myself. It's so effective that I tell all my clients to make sure you know these 5 things before you step into my studio or even to the gym if they're a remote client as well. So make sure you start memorizing these 5 things, start doing one at a time, and then from there it becomes subconscious and you'll do it automatically without knowing. Tip number 1, know the exercises that you need to do. So when I'm talking about exercises, I mean things like your lat pull downs, to your dumbbell rows, to your lunges, and even to what specific piece of equipment you want to use for cardio. Because rather than going in blind, you want to know exactly what the piece of machinery you want to use and where it is. Now, when I first started at the gym, I had to research everything. And I wrote down every single thing I wanted to do before I even went into the gym. The reason why I did that was because I wanted to visualize exactly where I needed to go in the sequence I needed to be at in what time. Because I only had 1 hour to get into the gym, and when I wanted to do that, I wanted to be as efficient as possible. But not only that, I wanted to have tunnel vision so I knew exactly where I needed to go and where I needed to be. So tip number 1 for me is know what exercises you need to do, know where you need to be, and know what machine you need to use, because you don't want to be trying to do something and trying to fidget with it if you don't know what it is. Tip number 2 sounds like a bit of a repeat, but I think it's very important. It's about knowing your whole workout. You don't want to be chopping and changing in between your session. And what I mean by that is, know your 5 exercises that you need to do and don't change from them. Tip number 1 is talking about each exercise itself and where you need to be, what equipment you need to use. But tip number 2 is knowing it from A to Z and knowing exactly where you need to be and where you want to be at what time slot. So for example, if you're there for 1 hour and you have 5 exercises, roughly about the 30-minute mark, you should be on the 3rd exercise. And that's exactly what I want you to know. Because at times you may come to a situation where that piece of equipment that you need is actually gone or being used. So what do? You can move on to your next exercise or have a bit of rest, have a bit of a stretch, and then wait for that piece of equipment to free up. Not quite a tip, but also don't be afraid to ask the person if you can work in between. More than likely the person will say yes. If you're a little bit afraid, that's okay. You can just wait by the side or say, hey look, can I use that piece of equipment after you're done? Tip number 3, be slow and analyze the situation. Now this can be dependent on each person and if you can control this, because the gym is a hectic time in the morning and more than likely after work. So if you can, try and avoid those time slots until you feel a little bit more comfortable. The reason why I say this is because when it's, for us around here in Perth, between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock is the peak time. It's very hard to get equipment and sometimes you might feel a little bit more anxious with more people in the gym. So what can you do? You can always make sure you know when the quiet times are, and if you can, prioritize your workout time slots to be during those times. Now if you don't mind if it's a little bit busy, but you're just a little bit uncertain on how to actually use a piece of equipment, that's also okay. This tip still applies to that situation. Take your time to set up the machine and read the instructions if you need to. Because the worst thing that you can do is rush everything and actually have done the exercise completely wrong. So don't be afraid to take your time and actually just analyze each thing that you're doing. And this goes back into step number 1. If you're trying to learn the exercise, try and think of each step, each cue, one at a time. You won't get it right the first time, but when you do that workout again, make sure you understand what you did wrong and how you can make it a little bit easier and perfect it. Before I get to the 4th tip, Comment below on something that you have found hard to overcome when you go to the gym. Hopefully I can give you a solution, or maybe someone else can share as well. We would love to hear what you have to say. Tip number 4 is dependent on the person. You might find it helpful or you might find it distracting, but I highly recommend for most people to play some music that gets you in the mood. So some people may find that's a little bit more upbeat, some people may have it a little bit lower beat, but it's always going to be something that's going to motivate you. So play some music that motivates you. Also, this might help you keep your nerves down and kind of forget who's around, because no one's really watching you when you go to the gym unless you're doing something completely wrong. And even saying that, hopefully someone will come around and help you. But just know that it's okay to make mistakes, which links us to our next tip. Now, I've left this tip to be the most important one and the last one, and it's make mistakes. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but everybody makes mistakes. It doesn't matter how much of a beginner you are or how advanced you are, everybody makes mistakes. The degree of the mistake is definitely different, but a mistake is always going to be there for you to learn. So, if you ever happen to have made a mistake in your exercise, or you make a few errors and you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. But the only thing that you need to do is learn from them, because you can only use mistakes as an opportunity to learn. If everything came easy, you wouldn't be doing this. And I want to make sure you understand that. I have made a ton of mistakes across the 10 years that I've been doing this, and even saying that, the things that I've done 10 years ago aren't the things that I do now. So whatever you're doing right now, hopefully you're not going to make those same mistakes 10 years again down the track, because this is a long-term journey. So just make some mistakes, but learn from them as much as you can, because that's what's going to help you along the way. So those are some of the 5 tips that I highly recommend, and I still live by to this day, 10 years later from stepping into the gym. The most important thing is that it takes time to feel comfortable. I know you may not feel comfortable right now, but if you keep going at it, you're going to get better and better, and eventually you'll have less issues to come across. Now for myself, I've been tracking a lot of my training for the last 10 years on Instagram, and I find this that it really motivates me, because I can look back and go, hey look, I used to make such silly mistakes along the way, and now I've developed from that. So if you want to see some of those things that I've done 10 years ago and leading up to my present time in training, follow me on Instagram. My handle is sean.momentum, and you can scroll all the way down and see all the small things that I used to do that were completely wrong or very different to what I believe in now. So those are my tips for you if you're stepping into the gym and you feel a little bit anxious. It's absolutely normal. All I can say is keep tuned for more videos where we give you more tips, more tricks about nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle to help you develop yourself into the best version of you. The only thing that you have to do is get started, because when you have, all you have to do is let momentum take over, because momentum is key.